I'm gonna kind of jump and kind of do this a little bit more backwards than I usually do, and start with a real big congratulations on the film. I loved it. I know a lot of fans loved it, and I just want to know you guys' reaction to that and how well it's received and all the excitement that the fans have for it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Way more than we expected. Yeah, we didn't really get a chance to watch it with. We didn't really get a chance to watch it with an audience because of COVID. So it really took a while for us to be sure. Like we had our premiere at Fantasia, and we had a lot of really great reviews, and that was nice. But you never know. These could a lot of them were smaller publications because we were one of the last films at the festival, so a lot of the big ones sort of left already, and so we weren't sure. We didn't know how many people watched it. We didn't know if these you never trust the good reviews, right? So we're like, I don't know if this is good, and then slowly but surely it started to gain momentum, and then I think we finally drank the Kool-Aid, and we're like, all right, maybe we did make something that's pretty okay here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I personally love the film, and I follow, I think, both of you on Twitter, so I've seen a lot of the reactions and retweets and so forth. So it's really exciting to see that, and exciting to see other fans when they feel the same way as you about a film, and I'm sure that's great excitement for you guys as well.
Absolutely is, yeah. Absolutely, yeah, it's incredible.
So obviously a lot of great things happen in this movie. I'm going to start, maybe towards the middle or the back end here with the supernatural kind of beings or creatures that you have here. How did you kind of come up with those ideas and develop them?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was, for the ghosts, I wanted to go into what scares us in our dreams. So, I looked at dream analysis and what they mean. And so are we spoiler free here, or are we not spoiler free?
That's totally up to you guys.
Okay, I'll leave it as vague as possible, but I'll say that, there are a lot of significance. Every ghost, teeth falling out, or, anything with teeth is like things spinning out of control. And for Henry, that's what happened to him in the movie. And with Audrey, things becoming overwhelming and becoming too big for you to contain is another, something that we suffer with in our dreams. Shannon obviously has her own suffocations and things like that going on. So that was sort of really where we started the design. And then a lot of it is just, Justin and I talking, going back and forth. Then, of course, you have the incredible Carly Morse coming in with her designs. Tina Rajon with her costumes. So it just really came together really well. Justin, anything else there? No, that covers it pretty well. I think some of the demons we looked back to myth and legend, and we took from all over the place. We didn't want to focus on one specific religion because that's not really what this is about. This isn't a Catholic demon story. It's just these creatures, and sort of the lore we came up with was these creatures have existed throughout eternity, and whatever civilization happened upon it, they would create their own story for it. So, what the Greeks would call, Poseidon, someone else would call Satan or whatever, right? So, I think I've got those mixed up. Those don't make sense at all. But, we just wanted to say that these demons existed, and that, you never know. There's no truth behind them that humans could understand. They are, and when you happen upon them, this is the kind of craziness that they rain down upon us.
And maybe this is for you, maybe a little bit more, Justin. The first time each of your main characters kind of meets one of these supernatural beings, can you talk a little bit about the shooting of that and of those scenes, and did they kind of go well, or did you maybe one was more harder than the others, or and the actors' reactions to getting the actors' reactions to these scary beings?
Yeah, I couldn't have had an easier time with the actors. They all of them brought so much and were so open that I don't think I ever came in and said, that's not line fiction, we have to change it. It would just be asking questions and I'd go, oh, what do you think of this? And they would come back, and it would be just such a great working relationship with all of them because we had so much talent on set, and the reactions they brought, it was great when they nailed it exactly what I was picturing, but it was even better when they surprised me. And I said, oh my God, I never pictured going that way, but that is so strong. I absolutely love it. So that was really great. And yeah, in terms of the first time seeing the ghost, those all went really, really well. I think, that's really, because it's a horror movie, right? We got to get the scares right. The emotion and the characters, they were all there on the page. So between Keith and the actors, I just had to, pick my feet up and enjoy the show. But those scares really had to make sure that was built properly. So I spent a lot of time blocking that out, figuring out how it would be covered, studying, not just, old horror films, but the more recent ones, like, I think James Wan is the current master of timing of a scare. So really watch how he does that, among others. So it was, I was really well prepared for those, I think. And luckily we had a crew and cast who were, willing to go the extra mile to make them as easy as possible. But there certainly were instances like, with Becker escaping. No spoilers. There were other instances with the ghosts and demons that were more difficult than the first time we met them. But again, with that cast and crew, everyone just kept working till we got it right.
The scares are fantastic, and this thought kind of came to me as you guys are speaking. We don't see them till maybe midway or later in the film. Was there ever any thought to maybe kind of hint at them earlier on, or they were exactly where you wanted them to appear?
No, we do have a few hidden ghosts throughout, so you do actually see some of them before their main entrance. They are sort of lurking there in the shadows. But no, I don't think there were any other scenes introducing our creatures. Keith, were there any iterations of the script where you had some of these possessed or demons or ghosts showing up earlier? No, I don't think so. I think it was always that was the way it was.
Yeah, and
the timing was really important.
And I really love that as a viewer of the movie is where the timing of it happens, because like you said, you get the hints that there's probably something going to happen, and you kind of imagine it, but just you never really think that it's going to happen as bad as it ends up happening.
Yeah, I always think of the words, jump scare. That was sort of a bad word to me. I didn't want it to be just like, loud noise and then the character turns around and it's just their friend with their hand on their shoulder. I wanted to avoid that in this film. So anything that, was a jump scare had to be earned. So it had to be something actually scary. And then it was also really fun to play with. I think the first time you really get to see the suffocating ghost when you get a close-up on his face, it's shot as if it should be a jump scare. But we changed the timing of it completely. So you pan over, you actually see him for a solid 2 to 3 seconds before he moves. There is no musical sting there. And so the scare is totally different than, whip pan and there he is coming after you. So it was really fun to play with those expectations of the audience.
Yes, I loved it. I love when there's no music to tip you off. That's always enjoyable. I wanted to touch on something else here. We're talking a lot about the scares, but there's also some comedy and within the story here. Obviously, it opens kind of in a funny manner, and the couple is very comedic early on. But then even as it goes on, they almost have a comedy of errors, which kind of leads them down this path of doom. Can you kind of talk about fitting in the comedy with the emotions that are going on here and also the scares?
Yeah, I think, with the comedy, it is, my background is in comedy, so I think I tend to kind of loop it in for a bit of levity. I think it's important, too, to get your audience, to bring them back down and catch them off guard again if you can add a little bit of levity, but it was very important for Justin and I neither to, we didn't want to set up a punchline or have jokes in the movie, but, circumstances are usually where I like trying to figure out technology and just, as you say, a comedy of errors, right? It's grounded. We try to make it as real as possible. It really was about, that's great. Yeah, it was really about getting that feeling of realism. And, I think there was a review that said, like, if Coen Brothers made a horror movie, to which we said, no, please don't say that. Don't compare us to the Coen Brothers. I like to think that that's, at least, we captured a snippet of that kind of comedy, which is definitely my favorite style.
Yeah, I watched the film over again this morning before the interview, and I definitely picked up on a little bit more of that than I had done the previous times I had watched that. So it's just interesting how the couple just kind of goes down that path, and they were trying, but it just so happens they just didn't get it right.
Absolutely, yeah, great.
Also in the story is obviously a lot of grief and guilt. And then that kind of what leads here to the reverse exorcism. Can you kind of talk about kind of fitting in that tough subject? Grief is a tough subject. Fitting that into the film amongst the comedy and the scares.
Yeah, well, for me, for me it was the opposite. Grief really was what grounded the story, and that's what people are going to be able to connect with. And then once you have that grounding, then you can weave in those other elements. And I think Keith did that brilliantly with being able to get the comedy in there, because it is often hard. Like, grief is we're not the first ones to deal with that in a horror movie, obviously. So, but it's hard to make that add any sort of levity to a movie about grief. Normally it has to be bleak, and people think, when I lose someone, I'm sad, so the movie becomes sad. But you wanted, again, aiming for that realism. 2 years after you lose somebody, you're still sad about it. You're still grieving, but you move on with your life. You still joke with your family and move on and do things. So for me, it sort of went the opposite. It started with the grief, and the others came from it. I hate it, but I would just echo that as well. Yeah, same thing. It's exactly what it was. It was always about the grief, and everything is just to kind of surround that movie.
And kind of at what point did you kind of come up with the idea for the reverse exorcism? Is that early on in the script, or maybe later on, or what sparked that idea?
Yeah, that was the very first idea that we actually came up with. We were trying to come up with a movie. Just when I was driving a car home to another meeting, and we were just trying to throw out ideas about this and that, and I don't remember who said it. I think we both give each other credit, so we'll never know for sure. I don't remember. I could swear that it was Justin that said, "What about a reverse exorcism?" So there you go. It's now recorded, and I'm giving him the credit. And so we just kind of ran with it from there. So from that idea, just bobbled over. It's usually how we do things. We'll sit there and flesh out the story ideas, for a few hours, and we usually have a pretty solid framework by the end of it.
Another thing that I was kind of curious about was there, if I remember correctly, reading or seeing that you guys had a very short time to shoot this film. So was there anything more that you wanted to add that was maybe taken out, or maybe the other way around, that it was removed, that you would have preferred to be in, or vice versa?
I don't think there's anything major. There's a few, scenes. Obviously, more time is always nice, and we would have done a few more camera setups, and we had some scenes take place, during magic hours, so you've got like 25 minutes to shoot anyways. So, a few more runs at those scenes might have gotten us something different, but it's. I'm absolutely thrilled with the movie we made. It was. It's hard to like your own work once you're finished. But when this movie was done and I watched it for the first time, I thought, this is something whether people like it or not, I can be proud of this project, which was a really nice feeling to have. So, of course, there's going to be things you wish you could have done differently, but at this stage, I don't think I would change anything. So.
I always like hearing that, because one of the first things that I learned when I started doing these interviews is that a lot of filmmakers are highly critical of their work, and some of them hate the movies that they do, and I was kind of shocked by that. So I'm always,
for sure.
I always love when I hear it kind of in reverse that, hey, I love my film, or I can appreciate the way it came out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's go ahead, Jeff. No, go, Keith. I was just going to say, I think it's, obviously, you make a movie that you want to see. Like for me, that's what it was. That's what I'm always trying to do. I'm just, as a lifelong horror fan, I'm like, I just want to make a movie that I wish somebody else had made. As a writer, it happens a lot where you'll have an idea for a long time, but maybe you haven't made that movie yet, and then you hear about that movie coming out. I don't get upset. I'm just excited that I get to see it. So it's similar in that sense. I think to what Justin was saying is, this was just a movie I really wanted to see, and he's absolutely right. Like, because everybody was so great in it, it turned out exactly like we'd hoped. So you do get that feeling of pride of being like, hey, I like this movie. If I'm a horror fan, I would watch this. And don't get me wrong, I can still spot every single mistake I made. 100%. But all those, everyone who made this movie alongside us, get to watch their work and feel the connection to it really gives me a sense of pride. So it's not perfect, but I still love it. Yeah, no, there's still lines that I hear. At one time, I think there was a line, I'm not going to say it, it'll just call it out, but I'd heard it, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, was that an on the day? I was actually sure enough I wrote it, so yeah, that seemed bothering me. But it was going to be that way. It was going to be that way.